Welcome back to my channel. In the past 2 days, I talked about what to do when someone else infringes your copyright. Today, I want to talk about how not to infringe someone else's copyright because you don't want to ruin your reputation and get into legal trouble as an artist. I also want to talk about it because I just realized that Mama Coco exists. The Mama Coco from the 2017 Pixar bestseller Coco. And if you like animated films, you probably know the movie already. It is a very lovely movie about life and death and traditions and family. I was brought up by my grandparents, so I clicked with the movie immediately, especially the songs in the movie. They were so good. The story is about a little boy whose name is Miguel. He always wanted to become a musician, an artist, and he wanted to chase his dreams and mainly inspired by a very famous big music star. And in fact, when he accidentally went to the world of the dead, he discovered that music star was a fraud and the true artist behind was his great-grandfather or great-great-great-father. I mean, it's someone in his family, and nobody really knew him because he was murdered in cold blood and all the works got stolen and nobody actually knew. They just kind of forgot him. And the idea is to bring back the memory of the dead so that they can reunite in the world of the dead, like on the day of the dead. I don't really know how it works, but it's a lovely story. So the key person in the story is Coco. That's why the movie's name is Coco. And Mama Coco is great-grandmother of Miguel. And she is actually from this real person whose name is Maria Salud in the town Santa Fe de la Laguna. This town is very famous because of the tradition of artisan, and also it's a town of artists with a lot of culture and history. And the Pixar filmmakers went there to look for reference, visual reference, cultural reference before making the movie. And they met Maria Salud and took pictures of her and said they will be in touch if she comes out in the movie. Guess what? Maria's family is the last one to find out that she actually came out as Mama Coco, the key person in the story. And they felt quite upset because the Pixar filmmakers never got back, never sent a letter or email or telephone, or nobody acknowledged her as the true person and true spirit behind Mama Coco. And they felt quite betrayed and angry and said, okay, we want just recognition, just send us a thank you letter and that's it. We don't want no more other things. And I feel like this is a very interesting case for artists because when you're creating, you create from real life and some of your imagination. But when you see someone, a person, maybe a girl, a boy, or a pet animal, and you want to paint this person, you need to take legal precautions because you might be infringing someone else's right. I want to divide it into different scenarios and let's talk about case by case because there's not like one rule and every case is different. In the case of you are painting on someone else's photo, like origin based on someone else's photograph, this is the most common case because you can see many thousands of, hundreds of thousands of photos on the internet and maybe one photo really clicked with you and you want to paint that photo. The thing is, you're not allowed to paint it exactly and sell your work because you're infringing the photographer's rights. So what to do normally is you need to get the consent from the photographer. Usually the photographer would get the consent of the person so that you can directly just get the consent of the photographer and you're good. And if you're not able to get the consent, you have to change the picture significantly. I would mash it with another picture. I would do a lot of heavy Photoshop editing. I would then print it. And after that, I would manipulate the picture again until it doesn't look like there's not even like one pixel looking like the previous photo, so that I used my own creativity and imagination and recreated the image in my head using that photo, but nobody could recognize it was the same photo. So that's okay. If you paint photorealistically, that's not okay. If you paint the two person like twins, it's not okay. If you paint the two person like cousins, that's probably okay. It must not look identical, but it can look somehow familiar. The second scenario is what happens if you take that photo yourself. When you are traveling, when you are going by your day-to-day life, maybe you suddenly see a person's face that you think, okay, she's your muse and you must stop her and take a picture of her. The thing is that if you take a picture, it's better to get her consent. So if you are traveling, make sure you carry a consent form, or if you are traveling and you don't have the consent form, you can ask the contact details of the person so you can get back to the person later and say, can you give me a yes, a green light to use your image for my art? And explain a little bit how you would like to use that image, or maybe ask her if the final image is okay for her to accept, and if she says yes on the email or text message, you are good to go. There's another case that if you don't have the person's consent, and maybe you're like in a bus traveling and the person is outside of the bus in the street and you just passed him or her, it's impossible to get off the bus and run over and then ask for the contact detail or consent. In this case, you are probably okay to paint the picture, but be careful if you want to sell the picture. And if she really comes to you and asks for compensation or give you trouble, it's very hard to deal with, because okay, like you took the picture, but you know, it's her face, right? So you're the artist, but you still need your subject to give you a green light in order to really use the exact image. Especially if she's very recognizable, like if she has some kind of maybe birthmarks on her face or some kind of features that in the environment nobody else could have, that could be confusing her for someone else, it's probably the best to only use that image for non-lucrative, like not for sale purposes. If you don't sell it, you just show it for your portfolio on your social media, that's still okay. But keep in mind that one day if you put it for sale and someone comes to you and say, hey, you know, that's me, you're not allowed to do it, then it's the best to remove that piece of work from the market. The last scenario is that you know the person, you know her by memory, but this person doesn't know you. Maybe, for example, the ex-president Obama. Like, you know the person because you see the person on the TV all the time, but Obama unfortunately doesn't know you, and there's no way for you to get to Obama and say, can I use your image? Theoretically speaking, if you are painting a very recognizable face of someone famous, you cannot make it for sale. You can use it for your own purpose, or you can give it to a friend. You can even show it in your portfolio. Just make sure that you put it not for sale so that Obama knows that you're not making money off his face. If you still want to use it for sale, there is one way you can do, is to significantly transform that image into something that an ordinary person who doesn't know Obama will not associate this face with Obama. Just like in the police station when someone asks you to identify the criminal, you're looking at the faces, you're like, you know what, nobody really looked like the one I have seen. This is the effect you want. You have to really put in a lot of work and creative freedom to force that creativity out of you to make it something really a person who doesn't really know Obama will not recognize Obama. I know that it has a lot of bias, cultural bias, because probably someone who sees a face of a slender, leader-looking African-American, Matisse, 50-year-old male, this person would probably think, okay, is that Obama? Is that a painting of Obama? Because it's such a cliche. But if you make it a little bit different, and for someone who used the standard of identifying a criminal or some sort, this is the standard you want to go for. And also you cannot really name it, you know, like Obama's photo for sale. No, you cannot name it like that. You can say the leader of the future, or leader of the past, or, you know, handsome man. Okay, that's okay. You just cannot use the name of Obama, because also the name belongs to him. So those are the precautions and rules of the thumb. But as an artist, when you are painting someone else's face for a cat or dog or someone's pet, the owner of the pet owns the image of the pet, like the grumpy cat. The owner of the grumpy cat is able to earn millions of, or if not hundreds of thousands of dollars of the rights of grumpy cat, because it's so recognizable and it is protected. So again, unless you have a cat just to look like a grumpy cat, it's a really good idea to avoid the infringement and be extra careful. Always ask for consent. Remember, yes is yes. You have to really ask for the consent, like if you are inviting someone for a date, really, do you want to be my girlfriend? Yes or no? Like, make it really clear and make it official so that you avoid future legal troubles. That's all for today's video. If you have any questions or intellectual property rights, copyright, or any sort of rights as an author, as an artist, let me know in the comment below. Make sure you hit the subscription button if not to miss the upcoming videos. And that's all for today. See you in the next video.